The hum of the refrigerator was the loudest sound in the house. It was a familiar soundtrack to my evenings, a steady, low drone that underscored the quiet. Outside, the Indiana sunset was painting the sky in shades of orange and lavender, but I was only half seeing it from my perch at the kitchen island, scrolling through my phone with a kind of numb detachment. My wife, Sarah, was working a late shift at the hospital, and my stepson, Liam, was, as usual, sequestered in his room. The door was closed, a silent testament to the careful, polite distance that had defined our relationship for the past 5 years. I scrolled past a meme, a vacation photo from an old college friend, a news article one didn't have the energy to read. My thumb moved on its own, a mindless reflex. This was the rhythm of our lives, a comfortable, if sometimes lonely, melody. I'd met Sarah when Liam was 10, a quiet boy with wary eyes who watched me from behind his mother's leg. I'd tried, God knows I'd tried. I'd coached his little league team, helped with science projects, attended every school play. I was the reliable one, the provider, the guy who fixed the leaky faucet and made sure there was gas in the car. But I was never Dad. I was Mark, a good guy, a stable presence, but never the son his world revolved around. That position was reserved for his biological father, a charming but unreliable ghost who blew in and out of Liam's life with extravagant gifts and broken promises. As Liam entered his teenage years, the chasm widened. The wary boy became a sullen adolescent. Our conversations dwindled to logistical necessities. Did you finish your homework? Yep. Your mom will be home at 9. Okay. The door to his room would click shut, and the house would fall silent again. I told myself it was just being a teenager. I told Sarah it was normal. But in the quiet moments, the truth nagged at me. I was a placeholder, a kindly custodian in the story of his life until he was old enough to write his own. That particular evening felt no different. I was about to resign myself to another night of television reruns when Liam's door creaked open. This in itself was unusual. His emergence was typically reserved for food or the bathroom. I heard his footsteps padding down the hall, but they didn't head for the kitchen. They stopped right behind me. I turned, expecting a question about dinner or the Wi-Fi password. He was standing there, shifting his weight from one foot to the other, his hands hidden behind his back. His face was a canvas of conflicting emotions, nervousness, determination, and something else I couldn't quite place. He was 16, all lanky limbs and a voice that still sometimes cracked, but in that moment, he looked both younger and older than his years. Hey, Mark, he said, his voice a little tight. Can we talk? A cold knot formed in my stomach. Talk was rarely good. Talk could mean he'd dented the car, failed a test, or, my deepest fear, that he wanted to go live with his dad. I put my phone down, screen side down on the counter. Sure, Liam, of course. What's up? He took a deep, shaky breath, like a diver about to plunge into deep water. I have something for you. My eyebrows shot up. For me, it wasn't my birthday. It wasn't Father's Day, a holiday we acknowledged with a certain awkward formality. It was a random Tuesday in October. He nodded, his eyes fixed on a point somewhere past my shoulder, as if he couldn't bear to look at me directly. Slowly, hesitantly, he brought his hands from behind his back. He was holding a small, rectangular box, clumsily wrapped in what looked like leftover Christmas paper, the edges torn and taped down with a haphazard enthusiasm. I know it's not, a holiday or anything, he mumbled, thrusting the box toward me. I wanted to give this to you. I took the box. It was light, almost weightless. I looked from the poorly wrapped gift to his anxious face, my mind racing, trying to compute what was happening. This was unprecedented. This was off script. What is this, buddy? I asked, my voice softer than I intended. Just open it, he said, his gaze finally meeting mine. The nervousness was still there, but it was now overshadowed by a raw, desperate hope. It was a look that stripped away all the teenage bravado, revealing the vulnerable kid underneath. Okay, I said, feeling a strange lump form in my own throat. Okay, I carefully picked at the tape, not wanting to tear the paper he'd so painstakingly applied. The Christmas reindeer seemed to mock the ordinariness of the evening. Underneath the paper was a plain, brown cardboard box, the kind you might get from a craft store. I lifted the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of crumpled tissue paper, wasn't a tie, or a gift card, or any of the generic, stepdad, presents I might have expected. It was a small, handmade book. The cover was made of sturdy, dark blue construction paper. On the front, in Liam's unmistakable, slightly messy handwriting, were the words, "To Mark." A collection. I looked up at him, utterly bewildered. A collection. He just nodded, swallowing hard, and gestured for me to look inside. I lifted the book from its tissue paper nest. It felt fragile in my hands, a precious artifact. I opened the cover. The first page was a sheet of lined notebook paper, carefully glued onto the construction paper. At the top, he had written a title, "Reasons I'm Glad You Married Mom." The air left my lungs. The hum of the refrigerator faded into a distant buzz. The world narrowed to this book, this boy, and the words on the page. With fingers that had suddenly grown clumsy, I turned the page. Number 1. You make her laugh in a way I never heard before. Her laugh used to be quiet. Now it's loud and it fills the whole house. I stared at the words. I remembered the first time I'd made Sarah laugh, a real, belly-deep laugh, during one of our early dates. It had been over something silly, a spilled drink. I remembered the sound, how it had surprised even her. And Liam, a quiet 10-year-old at the time, had noticed. I turned the page. Number 2. You fixed the porch swing and now she sits out there with her coffee every morning. She looks peaceful. I had fixed that swing last summer. It had taken me a whole Saturday, swearing under my breath, skinning my knuckles. I'd thought it was just a chore. I never knew he'd seen it as anything more. Number 3. You remember to get the kind of orange juice she likes, with the extra pulp. Dad always forgot. The specificity of it hit me like a physical blow. It was such a small thing, grabbing that specific carton from the grocery store. A mundane act of domesticity. But to him, it was a symbol of care, of attentiveness that his own father had lacked. Page after page, I turned. Each reason was a tiny window into a moment I thought had passed unnoticed. Number 7. That time I had the flu in 8th grade and you stayed home from work and we watched those old monster movies all day. You didn't even get mad when I threw up on the couch. I had forgotten that day. It was just a day. A sick kid, a messy couch. But to him, it was a memory of being cared for. Number 12. You don't yell. Even when you're mad, your voice is calm. The house feels safe. Tears were now welling in my eyes, blurring the carefully penned words. All those times I'd bitten my tongue, all the times I'd counted to 10 in my head, thinking it was a failure of passion, a sign that I wasn't fully invested. He hadn't seen it as a lack of feeling, but as a source of safety. Number 15. You showed me how to change a tire. I acted like I didn't care, but I was listening. Number 18. You call your mom every Sunday. It makes me think about how I should be better about that. He was watching. All this time, through all the silence and the closed doors, he had been watching. He saw the small things, the mundane acts of love and responsibility that I performed every day, thinking they were invisible. He had been cataloging them, curating them into this beautiful, heartbreaking collection. I reached the final page. The last entry wasn't a numbered reason. It was a paragraph, written in a script that was even more careful, as if he had practiced it. Mark, I know I don't say it much. It's hard for me, but I wanted you to know that I see you. I see all the stuff you do. For me and for Mom. You've always been there. You're the one who showed up. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is, thank you. For being my dad, even when I didn't make it easy. I couldn't read the last few words. The tears broke free, streaming down my face, dripping onto the plastic cover of the book. I looked up at Liam. He was crying too, silent tears tracking through the faint stubble on his cheeks. All the walls between us, all the years of careful distance, crumbled to dust in that moment. I didn't know what to say. There were no words big enough, profound enough, to contain the ocean of emotion that was crashing inside me. So, I didn't speak. I stood up, the little blue book clutched in one hand, and I opened my arms. He didn't hesitate. He stepped into the embrace, and I wrapped my arms around my son. My son. The word finally, truly, fit. It wasn't a label of biology, but one of choice, of earned love, of shared history. He buried his face in my shoulder, and his body shook with silent sobs. I held him tight, feeling the sharp angles of his shoulders, the solid reality of him. We stood like that in the quiet kitchen for a long time, the setting sun casting long, golden shadows across the floor. The hum of the refrigerator was no longer the sound of loneliness, but the sound of home. When we finally pulled apart, both of us wiping our eyes and laughing a little at our own emotional state, the air in the house felt different. Lighter. Clean. Liam, I finally managed, my voice hoarse. This is the most incredible thing anyone has ever given me. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything, he said, sniffling. I wanted you to know. I know now, I said, my hand on his shoulder. I know. We talked then, really talked, for the first time in years. We talked about his fears about college, about the girl he liked at school, about his complicated feelings for his biological father. He talked, and I listened. I didn't offer advice or solutions, I just listened. I was finally being led into the inner sanctum of his life, and I knew it was a privilege I would never take for granted. When Sarah came home an hour later, exhausted from her shift, she found us not in our usual separate corners, but sitting together at the kitchen island, laughing over a story from Liam's soccer practice. She stopped in the doorway, her nurse's bag slung over her shoulder, a look of quiet surprise on her beautiful, tired face. Hey, you two, she said, her eyes flicking between us, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. What's going on? Liam and I exchanged a look, a secret, shared smile. Nothing, Mom, he said. Just talking. I got up and kissed her hello. Long day. The longest, she sighed, leaning into me. Later that night, after Liam had gone to bed and the house was quiet again, I showed Sarah the book. We sat on the couch, and I watched her face as she read it. She cried, too, happy, relieved tears. He sees you, Mark, she whispered, leaning her head on my shoulder. I always knew he did, in his own way. I guess I just stopped believing it, I admitted, holding the little blue book as if it were made of spun glass. I thought I was just the guy in the background. You were never in the background, she said firmly. You were the foundation, and now he's finally old enough to understand what a foundation looks like. I keep the book on the shelf in my home office, next to family photos and my old college diploma. It is my most prized possession. Some days, when I'm feeling disconnected or stressed, I take it down and read it again. Each entry is a touchstone, a reminder that love isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's the quiet, consistent showing up. It's fixing the porch swing, remembering the orange juice, staying calm. The surprise wasn't just the gift itself, though the gift was profound. The surprise was the complete and total shattering of my own narrative. I had built a story in my head where I was a supporting character, a stand-in. Liam, with his clumsy wrapping paper and his painfully honest words, rewrote that story. He handed me the lead role, not out of obligation, but out of love. He showed me that the most powerful surprises in life aren't the loud, dramatic ones. They are the quiet revelations that happen in a kitchen on an ordinary Tuesday, when a closed door finally opens, and a boy offers a man the one thing he never knew he needed most, the simple, undeniable truth that he was seen, he was appreciated, and he was loved. Not as a stepfather, but as a father. It was a gift I never expected, and one I will cherish for the rest of my life.